Good evening and welcome to Electronic Game Information and our Quarant-Egi version of the show. This is the final week of Quarant-Egi, so if you haven't sent us any EGI inspired art, please do so. Please send it to electronicagameinformation@gmail.com. You can send it to our Twitter account. You can send it to our Instagram account, EGI with Robby, Electronic Game Information, etc. Looking for those wonderful pieces of art. Just want to make sure there's a little bit of time that we can get those pieces and put them together into a special form that then we will reshare with the audience, the viewing audience here on AdultSwim.com. We have an incredible show for you tonight with lots of surprises. But first, we of course have the news, and this is the big one because what the news is tonight is so we have four games. Rise of the Argonauts, Spartan Total Warrior, Gladius, and none other than Shadow of Rome. And the problem with this, so it's not really so much of the news as it is a problem now, because what happened was we got all of the news together for these four incredible games that take place during the classical historical period. I think we can all agree that the classical historical period between the rise, the fall, the rise. So Greece and Rome were the classical period. What we generally think of as the classical period is Greece. So these are four games that take place in that period between the rise and fall of these two incredible classical civilizations. And in some ways they showcase the clash of those civilizations. But unfortunately, the screenshots for the games got all mixed up, so we don't know which screenshots are which. So we're going to have to just kind of go through there. I've asked Alan Resnick to jump into the news a little bit, to jump into the show a little bit early, so he can help me out with the news.
Robby, I can hear you. I'm going to be on the news.
You're on the news, Alan. We have these four classic games: Rise of the Argonauts, Shadow of Rome, Gladius,
okay,
and Spartan Total Warrior. So okay. Let's go ahead and start with Gladius, because I know there's probably a lot of people that are confused because they see the word Gladius, they think, of course, of the Gladius from the Warhammer 40K series of games.
I think they think about Gladius from Final Fantasy 15.
Gladius is, of course, well, no, there's Gladius from Warhammer 40K, and then there's Gladius.
And then there's Gladios
there's Gladios, but that's not those don't take place in the classical period. The classical period between the rise and the fall of these great empires. And
what's the news?
The news is that we got these four games all ready to go for the news, and then the screenshots got all mixed up, Alan.
Got it.
But we got to make sure that you guys don't get it mixed up. When we talk about Gladius, we're not talking about Gladius, because this is a Warhammer 40K game. Warhammer 40K, of course, is the wonderful gaming universe that brought us such wonderful strategy games and Space Hulk and the Warhammer 40K Fire Warrior, the first-person shooter for the PlayStation 2 and PC, where you take control of a Fire Warrior as we're not clear who the Fire Warrior is. It could be one of those characters that's sort of a blank slate that you could kind of put your own personality into. Not sure if there are dialogue trees where you can actually spend time figuring out what the Fire Warrior is going to say to the people that the Fire Warrior is fight. You can't fight fire with fire when you're in the Warhammer 40K universe, but you can use Greece to fight Rome, is what I'm saying, Alan.
And Robby, why am I on the news?
You're on the news because we're gonna go straight away. Tell me, Alan, when you think about the four games that we have lined up tonight, why so Gladius? Does this screenshot look like it's from Gladius, Shadow of Rome, Spartan Total Warrior, or Rise of the Argonauts?
That looks like it's from Gladius, Shadow of Rome.
Okay, so we're gonna mark this down as Gladius. Gladius is.
I can't tell, Robby, because all the images look ugly. And
the images, these are clear. These are the clearest images that you can find. These are EGI exclusives. No one else is talking about this. These are hardened warriors, Alan. So these are hardened warriors from these incredible classical periods when being a warrior meant being something akin to an artist, because there's nothing greater or worse, I think, than the art of war, because your canvas is carnage, Alan.
Robbie, I think you're using the term news in a very loose way.
Okay, so right here we have another wonderful screenshot. This could be from any of those 4 games. We can't tell you we can't tell which of the games they are. It could be Gladius, could be Shadow of Rome, could be Total Warrior, or it could be Rise of the Argonauts.
I think that's probably from the animated movie The Croods or The Cruds.
It's not, there's no animated movies. This is of course, he could be saying anything, but we imagine that he is saying is this how I want to be remembered? Because he's fighting for his life. You can only assume in these coliseums, in these various the gladiators are fighting to the death, unless sometimes they get to live longer. So to fight another day. So these are depictions of that classical historical period that you won't see on any other video game talk show on AdultSwim.com.
Definitely not. Definitely not. This is pure EGI.
So this could be a character, could be having an argument. He could be having it out with somebody. He could be meeting his friends.
This is hard.
Engage in this. It's incredibly hard. This is why I asked you to come in here, because I couldn't do this on my own. Everything got mixed up. There's no news really to report.
There's definitely not.
There's just a printout of Splatterhouse, the cover for Splatterhouse 3 for some reason. And the fact of the matter is that these are games that need to be recognized as it's a lost period of time between around 2003 and 2007 when these incredible action adventure games and action RPGs and in Gladius was a turn-based grid-based. There's 2 bases. There's the turn-based, there's the grid-based from LucasArts, the people that behind, of course, Star Wars.
George Lucas, the inventor of Star Wars, and many other wonderful films, like the one about the cars and the diner.
And exactly. Except in this case, it was Gladius or it was Glade. And this character could have been from any of those games. I mean,
Robbie,
that's the wonderful thing about this time period. I can't
tell what the image is, the quality.
It's an incredible, powerful warrior asking deep, looking at into the future, not knowing what is happening, not knowing if he might live another day, if the thumb will be up or the thumb will be down. Because when the thumb's up, when the thumb's down, that's what the emperor gets to do.
And imagine
that's how these countries worked back then.
Absolutely. And imagine how compelling this segment would be if you and I were in the same room and you can't stop me from coming.
We can't be in the same room because there's all of these restrictions. But if we were in the same room, what I would do is I would get 2 or 3 other people, and we would just lay out all the screenshots from these 4 incredible games. This could be from a game like Shadow of Rome. It could be from Gladius or.
I'm gonna head over to your place, and you can show me in person, and then it will be together forever after that. Got it?
Well, Alan, listen, I appreciate your passion. I know you're such a big fan of the show.
It's love.
We do miss
each other.
The combination of friendship and professionalism. I think that we have a delicate balance there, so we got to make sure to keep that balance going.
Absolutely.
Especially when we're drawing these lines of distinction between very similar games that are actually very different games.
Very much. That is very much the case.
Yes. So these are all incredible games. We don't know which ones they are. We have the covers, we have the screenshots, we have these. This is the news that everybody. No one's willing to talk about these games anymore.
Why?
You talk about I don't know. You talk about Shadow of Rome. People want to talk about Dead Rising because that was the game that was supposedly made from the ashes of a sequel to Shadow of Rome, and it became a much more popular game series. So we don't hear about Shadow of Rome anymore. We don't hear about Gladius anymore because Star Wars became such a huge deal. Now everything is just Star Wars. And in terms of Rise of the Argonauts and Spartan Total Warrior, anything could have happened.
Talk about Star Wars Fallen Jedi. That is a wonderful recent game in the new chapter in the Star Wars franchise.
But it is not a game set in the classical period between the rise of the Greek civilization and the fall of the Roman civilization.
It's set after the prequel. It's set right after the prequels, I think.
Do we? I don't know if we do enough to recognize the Holy Roman Empire.
I think I do.
Well, back to you, Alan. Thank you so much for your input. We've got a great show. We got plenty of we got all the screenshots that we need. I mean, we could be here for days.
Yes.
But I understand, Alan, you have a special report. This just in. This is an EGI exclusive special report from Alan Resnick. It's a new segment, Alan.
That's right. I'm gonna get my
That's the new segment alert, so you know it's coming. It's never been before seen here on Electronic Game Information on AdultSwim.com. It's Alan and Robby and the new segment. Go take it away, Alan. And if who am I?
You're Robby. I'm Alan. I'm doing a brand new segment on EGI, and you know that people are excited when I do these segments. This new segment is was it like how we remembered Headhunter?
Was it like what we how remembered?
No. Was it like how we remembered, Headhunter Redemption Edition with special correspondent me, Alan Resnick.
Special correspondent Alan Resnick, big fan of Alan Resnick, big fan of the show. Alan, I'm so excited that someone is finally taking the time to give this recognition to this incredible Headhunter game, this incredible spy thriller action game that has been steamrolled by the steamroller of history, the same steamroller that I think steamrolled the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire.
Was it like how you remembered?
It was.
Well, let's find out.
Because what happened was they expanded too quickly. They invested too much in their. They looked inward. Is what happened. They looked inward. They looked inward and outward too much at the same time, and they collapsed.
When you think back to Headhunter Redemption, what was how you remembered it? Do you remember some shooting, some action, some stealth? Then yes. Headhunter Redemption is like how you remembered. Do you remember tough characters like Jack and Lisa X? If so, then again, the answer comes back yes. Headhunter Redemption is like how you remembered. Should I keep going?
Yeah, well, Alan, I want to stop you there for a second because I think you overlooked one big part of Headhunter Redemption, which is the vehicle section.
Well, I'm not done. Oh. So maybe that's coming down the pipe in this segment. So
coming down the road more like because you're in that motorcycle. You're going fast. You got the mission. It's your mission, Alan. It's your segment. Take it away, Alan.
Robby's in the backseat. I'm driving the segment, and Robby is in the backseat, just along for the ride, not driving. If you remember smooth gameplay and good graphics, then no, Headhunter Redemption is not like how you remembered. Because Headhunter Redemption is one of those old, buggy games that no one played, whose world looked jagged and strange, like if they attached some sort of a sensor to a lab rat's brain in an attempt to recreate images from the rat's dream. By today's standards, Headhunter Redemption would almost look like nothing at all. Headhunter Redemption was released in 2004 on the PlayStation 2 and maybe on the Xbox. If you are some sort of savant with photographic memory, then absolutely yes, Headhunter Redemption is like how you remembered. But if you are like the rest of us, then you don't remember Headhunter Redemption because you never heard of it until just moments ago. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan, because I have to. That's wonderful sentiments that you have here, but I have to ask you about the vehicle sections there because you did manage to skip over that, and also the fact that Headhunter Redemption, the redemption was, of course, that the Headhunter had come to us from the Dreamcast after a great deal of absence. There was an absence.
So there's a game called Headhunter for Dreamcast, and it wasn't a hit, but they went ahead and did a sequel, and it wasn't a hit, and the sequel didn't come out. Was for PlayStation and maybe the Xbox. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan. What a wonderful. What's the connection here, Alan? What's the connection between what we're talking about with Headhunter Redemption, what we're talking about with games like Spartan Total Warrior, Shadow of Rome, Rise of the Argonauts, and Gladius?
I think based on the screenshots, Headhunter Redemption and all those other games you mentioned are all kind of those kind of back in the past, forget about them crud games that people don't like. I'm coming to your house.
You gotta stay there, Alan, because we got the whole thing. We got the whole show. We got the whole show that's happening now. Live. We're on live. We're live here on AdultSwim.com. I've got these screenshots. You've got the Headhunter Redemption. We've got to find that road to redemption that Jack Carver must have been looking for when he got on that bike the first time, rode out into the cityscape. These massive levels, these massive maps and environments that you could just do you could go anywhere, you could do anything, at least in theory. Of course, that was not the reality of what happened, but in theory, you could have been able to do that in Headhunter Redemption.
In theory, you could do almost anything in any game, in theory.
Right. Except for Shadow of Rome, because that was pretty much just gladiator fighting and sneaking around a big house.
I'll take your word for it. I don't play that kind of thing. But
well, what I think is so incredible about about Shadow of Rome, Alan, is what I was saying earlier about the Dead Rising series, because I know that you're a big Dead Rising expert, so I know that you've probably tracked that game series from the first Dead Rising game to Dead Rising 2, Dead Rising 3, Dead Rising 4, and now Dead Rising 5.
Probably, yeah.
And of course, remakes of several of those games. We you look around, you can barely move your elbows in the game store without bumping into a Dead Rising game. Rome casts a long shadow.
Absolutely.
Where's that guy? Where is he going? That guy that's sneaking around those big houses.
I'm not going to sneak around. I'm just going to come right up to the front door and knock.
No. Here's the where you got the you got to. Let's dial it back for a second, because we're losing track of the shadow. We've caught something. We've caught the shadow, and you can't hold a shadow because it's not there.
That's right.
Great. Well, thank you for that special report on Headhunter Redemption, Alan. Such a great report of such an overlooked gem of a game. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will continue our living coverage that we've been doing every single episode of the Quarant-Egi, our living coverage of Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. So we'll take a quick break and be right back. And we are back. Alan,
Yay.
are you excited to get right back into the thick of things in the Feylands with Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning?
Yes, my favorite part of the show is this run have been the Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning.
Every episode
segments.
We've played a little bit. We've gotten a little bit farther. We've experienced a smaller part of this incredible game, this incredibly massive game. But unfortunately, we're going to have to cut it short tonight, Alan, because we have a big surprise for the EGI audience.
Why? What are we doing?
It's a brand.
I don't like.
It's a brand. It's not a new segment. It's a segment that we've done before. We have a guest, which is the actual CEO of Night Dive Studios. Stephen Kick is here. So if you guys are big fan of Night Dive Studios here on EGI, I'm a little bit starstruck. So if I'm acting like I can't hold my together, it's simply because I just am so excited. I'm such a big fan of everything you guys are doing over there in Vancouver, Washington. The games that you guys are remastering and putting out are just absolutely great. You brought back one of the great games of my childhood, Turok 2, in a way that I never thought possible. I'm playing
Robbie, you got to tell me
Turok 2
why don't
in
you tell me
widescreen on a handheld.
I don't know why we did that, but I just wanted to say I'm such a big fan of Alan, being such a big fan of you, Robbie.
Oh,
thank you.
It's wonderful sentiment. Alan's
That's
a big
true.
fan of the show. Alan is very much a part of the show. We wouldn't be able to do the show without him. So, but we have this interview. We can't talk about Alan all night. We got to talk about Stephen Kick and Night Dive Studios.
Or we could talk about Robbie.
No, we got to. So Stephen Kick, why don't you
talk about
just
Robbie.
let's break the ice a little bit. Night Dive Studios. Where does that name come from?
Night Dive came from my personal love of night diving. It just seemed to kind of fit the philosophy of what we do, which is kind of comb the depths for treasure that has been long lost. Classics, if you will. And when you're doing a night dive, it's very dark. It can be frightening, but there can be a high reward factor there if you know what to look for.
What an incredible it's sentiment. What a eloquent way of putting that. And I have to admit, when I hear about somebody going down into the water, plumbing the depths in the middle of the night, I think, what the hell are you thinking? I mean, it's dangerous as hell. There's all sorts of alligators and snakes, and there's just like weird bugs that get in your boots and in your shoes. You can't be going into the water that late at night.
It is pretty frightening at first. You do have a torch, which is just a light source.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole different
that's sort of an English word, Alan. If you torch is what they call flashlights in England or in some parts of Canada or Australia.
Don't tell me. Talk to me. Talk to
when you're under the water. It's a
torch.
I think that's really interesting, and unfortunately, we're going to have to start with the hard questions now, Steven. So, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, because I'm gonna throw lots of curveballs your way, because I think even though I respect the hell out of you guys and whatever it is that you're doing out there in Vancouver, Washington, we got to ask you the big question of the evening, which is what the hell's going on with Call of Cthulhu: Destiny's End? Where is that game? Can you get it? Can you make it? Can you put it out? We know that it's sort of like, what do you call it? It's not a gameplay video. It's a Killzone 2, PlayStation 3, E3. You know what I'm talking about, Steven. It's not the game.
It was a trailer.
It's a trailer, but it's a target video. It's a target video for Call of Cthulhu: Destiny's End. So we know that there's something out there. Those models, those character models, those weird lumpy creatures that we can only assume are the weirdos from Rats in the Walls. And I gotta say, if you guys can pull this off, you can make history, because you'll be remastering a game that never came out in the first place. It's
quite a challenge. I mean, I think we're personally up for it. Last I heard, Dark Corners of the Earth was developed in a cottage somewhere on the English countryside, and Destiny's End could still be there. We really don't know.
So you got to get out the water at night, and you got to get on one of those overnight flights to England.
Yep.
find this dang cottage, that's where the source code is. What you're telling me, that's where the character models are, the environments. This was
probably all there.
This is a reimagining of the Call of Cthulhu universe in the style of wonderful Resident Evil 4. Alan,
Mm-hmm.
I understand. I'm pulling up
Right around the
I'm
same
pulling up
time,
the
too.
website.
Alan's pulling up the website right now, so we're doing the deep dive. We're here. We're doing the night dive. So we're the night divers.
.com.
I mean, I think we should all just kind of embrace it and just go for that dive. We've never released a game that's never been released before.
Wow,
that's to make that clear. But I think that, you know, that's probably the next step for us as a company.
All right.
Is to find these things that have never been made. And
let me talk about your competition for a second there, Stephen Kick, because there are some people that are doing similar things to what you're doing. I want to talk especially about Pico Interactive, the wonderful people down at Pico Interactive that re-released the Jaguar 64 version of Impossible on a cartridge, which was very unexpected format for that game. For those of us, Alan's of course the big Impossible expert, so maybe he could comment on that.
Yeah.
Back to you, Alan. So Pico Interactive is, of course, in chart. Now they have the licensing for ODT, Escape or Die Trying, which, of course, big fans of the show. We've covered in terms of showing actual kingdom, showing the gameplay from Escape or Die Trying here on the We're Reckoning. So they got the license first. They got to that finish line before you guys did. Did it hurt? How bad did it hurt? Was it a burning sensation? Was it painful to know that these people who are basically just making fake versions of games that came out on the TurboGrafx 16 were actually in charge of this incredible IP, Escape or Die Trying?
It's something that keeps me up almost nightly. Sometimes if I manage to fall asleep, it's cold sweats, it's night terrors, it's just unfathomable. It's a burning sensation.
You want to take the blood back. You want to take the blood out.
That's right. And you know, Pico, Eli, if you're listening, I'm coming for ODT.
This is an EGI exclusive. Night Dive Studios is going to do a hostile corporate takeover of Pico Interactive, and this is a moment. This is a turning point in this particular part of the games industry that makes remasters of these wonderful old 3D engine games like ODT, like Turok 2, like Power Slave.
Metal Fatigue.
The gloves really have to start coming off, because if we're not careful, I mean, Pico is going to get to Destiny's End before us, and that's just
can't happen. You can't let that happen. Those Texas Rangers down there in Texas can't get their hands on this incredible IP. That's this incredible game that could have changed the world of Lovecraft-based action adventure games.
May I offer a little bit of just
absolutely? Let's hear this EGI exclusive unsolicited advice from Alan Resnick.
I'm just on the site. I'm looking through the catalog of games that you've released. I don't understand why. Maybe you could re-release a game like Cyberpunk 2077 or Half-Life Alyx, or any of those newer games that people enjoy, because a lot of these games I never heard of, and they're like kind of Robby, quote unquote Robby games.
I mean, Doom Eternal, it just came out, but
yes,
I think it's due for a re-release. It's ready. It's ready to come out again.
I think
it's old news.
Okay, I think that would be good, because you have an old Doom, and I just think people would really enjoy a new Doom. So.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
I don't know about that, Alan. I think that people are looking for the old Doom. I think that people are looking for games like Power Slave, and I would like to talk. This is where the gloves come off, because this is the question I've been waiting to ask for a long time.
You should do Final Fantasy VII, the new one.
This is the question I've been waiting to ask for a long time. This is a Night Dive Studios question.
Right, it's a real guest.
So this is the real gas. This is the gas in the car. It's Power Slave. You guys are doing a re-release, a remaster of Power Slave or Exhumed, and I want to know, is it the Saturn version or the PlayStation version? Because those are two different games. They have striking similarities, you might say, but those are two very different game engines.
And the DOS version is different too.
Well, the DOS version is just the PlayStation version. Let's be honest.
DOS?
No, it's completely different. The DOS version is more or less a straightforward shooter using the build engine. The PlayStation version is okay. You know what? They're very similar.
Thank you for validating me, Stephen Kick. This is why we brought you on the show.
Robby, they're going on to PlayStation 5, and he's talking about DOS.
You're making money off of this stuff.
I don't get this. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're making some money, just enough so that we can go out and keep, scraping the barrel.
We gotta ask. In your opinion, this is no. I don't want to come down too hard on Megapixel, but what the hell's going on with that Panzer Dragoon remake, Stephen Kick of Night Dive Studios?
I'm not entirely sure what a Panzer Dragoon is. I mean,
it's a dragon.
Can somebody explain to me what that is?
It's two O's. So it's like an Un is like a spear.
An Un is a spear?
I think. I mean, Alan, you're the spear expert. I mean, you tell us.
A Panzer Dragoon is just a weird way of saying dragon.
It's a dragon with a spear nose.
Sure.
Have you ever had crab rangoon?
I've had rangoon, crab rangoon. No. But what I have had is a terrible time finding out how the hell $25 turns into this buggy, low depth of field mess that is the Panzer Dragoon remake. I mean, can those people be trusted with that IP? And can you, after you finish your hostile takeover of Pico, they're a publicly traded company, Pico Interactive, right?
I would hope so, because that's the only way we'll be able to take them over.
Yeah, that's because you can't take over just a privately owned company, a family. So what we got to do is we got to get them to list on the stock market.
We're going to do the list.
We can go. We have yes, but if we list on the Hong Kong stock market, then no one else is going to notice.
Why do you know all this stuff?
So we got to go over there, Stephen Kick.
To Hong Kong?
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere these days.
Well, we can't go. Except we can't go anywhere. This is the problem. This is the problem with Pico Interactive. This is my entire issue with them, because they've got a great IP in the ODT Escape or Die Trying, and I can't even get to Hong Kong.
They've also got Super Noah's Ark 3D.
Yeah. Alan?
Yes.
So licensing. This is a big part of your business. This is how
you should license Spider-Man to make the new Spider-Man game.
What you should license in terms of Spider-Man is of course Spider-Man 64 or Web of Shadows for the 32X.
Maximum Carnage is what I would personally go
Maximum Carnage. Interesting choice.
Yeah.
Many
Red
people
cart, everything. Comic book, all included.
Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis?
Atari Jaguar.
Atari.
It hasn't been released on that system yet, so we could do something old.
You can use the extra power of the CPU in the Atari Jaguar, because we all know the graphics card is just practically not even there. I mean,
so what else should we license?
What else should we? I mean, we could. What I want to know is if you're licensed. Okay, so you license. What do you do to license things? Because I'm taking notes.
Well, I figure out what it is I want to license.
Figure it out.
And then I'll generally go to mobygames.com.
MobyGames.
Which has
great repository of screenshots and chat rooms that MobyGames is. EGI would not be the show that it is without MobyGames.
It's really an incredible resource, mostly because you can go and look up any game, and there's usually a comprehensive list of credits of those people, the developers who are involved in making the game. I find out who they are, and I basically stalk them.
What do? You go to their house
Go to their house. You call them on the line.
And they
I go
keep
to their
telling you not to
LinkedIn.
come to your house, but you go to their house anyways, and then they hang out with you, and you get to actually just have a fun blast of a time hanging out.
It's happened before.
You hang out with these game developers, these classic game developers. They must impart to you some wisdom. Hey, it was really tough porting this to the N64. I had to use the RAM pack. We didn't have Rumble support. No one was there for us. You must get some. It's sort of like visiting the old bards of.
It's exactly like that.
Greece.
Oh yeah. I've never been served mead or any other beverages of that type from that era.
I have a question. When you licensed the Seventh Guest in the 11th Hour, how terrifying of an experience was that? Like, did you have to go speak to a ghoul or go into a mansion at night?
The Stoff Mansion?
That's right.
I've been there. And that's exactly what we had to do.
Oh my
God. Unfortunately, my CD-ROM drive only goes up to 2x, so it was a bit of a slower experience. But actually, the people inside were very receptive to the idea of re-releasing the game on which the house was based.
Oh my God.
And we were able to get another game from them called Tender Love and Care.
Tender Love and Care.
What kind of a game is that?
It's an interactive movie.
Okay.
I think it's got John Hurt in it.
I want to take a quick break from talking about these wonderful point and click 7th Guest 11th Hour games, and I want to ask you a quick question, which is how, if someone were to hypothetically reach out to Todd McFarlane and Jim Valentino and ask if they could make a video game with the characters that they made, Spawn and Shadowhawk, and take those characters and put them into a kind of Lovecraftian setting version of New England in the 1600s.
You know,
could that hypothetical be? Could I do that?
I think you and I are on very similar wavelengths. I have a copy of Shadow Man #1 on my nightstand. I was reading it last night.
Oh my God!
He breaks their backs. That's the lead.
Yeah, it's incredibly violent.
So you can imagine a wonderful character like Shadowhawk if he was let loose in this 17th century kind of pre-colonial. I mean, it is a colonial America. I almost said pre-colonial, but it's right in the middle of that period, isn't it? And you can imagine that Shadowhawk let loose on those on the Puritan setting could do a lot of damage, break a lot of backs, find witches and demons and warlocks, and of course if there was, what if it could possibly be that Shadowhawk and his friend Spawn, who's the Todd McFarlane character, let's not forget, they could meet a little boy who lives on the rooftops, and his name could be Philip, and he could look at them and tell them what they're doing, and that could be a huge aspect of the first chapter of what becomes an expansive world building game, or you start in a very small town, and the town is called Gloomsbrook, and that town just is walled off, and it's also surrounded by poisonous fog, and you have to get out of the fog, because you have to find a talisman. The talisman is someone knows where the talisman is.
This is such a good idea.
Find the talisman. You have to go into a basement and fight a creature that has been held prisoner by one of the villagers that Philip is going
Robby,
to
wait. Robby, I think you should not talk about this in such detail. Just maybe ask broad questions about licensing and
funding.
Ask some funding questions, but don't go into detail about it.
Give me Todd McFarlane's cell phone number.
I don't have that, but I do have.
But you can get it.
He's got
a copy of Uncanny X-Men 266 signed by Jim Lee.
Can we get that up on the screen?
I don't have that currently on me, no.
Well, here's the problem.
Let me back up. This kid on the roof named Phil. Can we have
his name is Philip? And he says, and he always is on the rooftops. It's like,
can we have him turn into the Max?
No, he's got to stay the kid. I mean, the Max can be in there. I mean, the Max should be. I want could be the Max, could be Chapel, it could be the Silver Lady from Wildcats.
Oh yeah.
It could be also, talking about. I mean, you're the Turok expert, but you can have these Valiant characters from Deathmate.
I mean, I could call
Archer
them
and
up,
Armstrong,
and
the Eternal
bring in
Warrior,
all the
Exo
Valiant,
Manowar.
all the Valiant heroes in, and the 1990s version of the MCU just kind of in that puritanical Lovecraftian setting.
Exactly. So we gotta get these people on the phone. We gotta get Jim Shooter on the phone. We gotta talk to them about licensing. You're a lawyer, so you can do that for me now.
Robbie, ask for money. Robbie,
Alan,
ask for money.
What's that, Alan?
If you you should ask him for money.
Can I have $100,000?
Let's put a game design document together first, and then we'll talk about budget.
Alan, he's going to hear the pitch.
That's great, because Robbie has pages of dialogue and diagrams of how the inventory works, and so
there's I'm not. I mean, we can't. I don't want to say that anything is real. But if you wanted to have a really interesting inventory system, which I know is what game developers really. That's what publishers.
Do you have a working title or a code
inventory
name?
Systems. It could be a wagon that they pull around wherever they go.
Do you have a working title or a code name for this project?
It's just a game that I made up.
Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah, I got my parents.
Okay.
What happened was we didn't have video games in my household, but then my parents got divorced, and then I had a lot.
What platforms would you want to support?
32X.
Robbie, don't sell yourself short. This could go on all of the major platforms.
I want it on 32X.
Sega CD 32X, because you got a good combination of things you can.
I want that. I want
Robbie,
that. I want that crisp. I want that crisp Sega CD audio. I want people to be able to take the disc out of the Sega CD disc drive, put it in their CD player, and enjoy that sweet music from that we don't know what it is.
Robbie wants it to be on
dialogue.
Steam. Robbie wants this to be on Steam and maybe on Switch and PlayStation 4.
Let's get a collection. I mean, this is like what you call this is like a brainstorming meeting. This is what people in the industry are doing. So this is what Night Dive CEO Stephen Kick does when him and his team sit down. They're like, "What are we gonna do?" And we're just like, "Oh, we gotta get IM8-bit. We gotta get limited run. We gotta get them to put out 32X cartridges of this game."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is printed. We're practically printing money. We're here live on AdultSwim.com.
Is this live?
Yes, I think so. I'll check.
So, Stephen Kick, we're having such an incredible time. I wonder if you would actually be willing to stick around for a little bit longer. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be doing the list, and we would love for you to be a guest on the list.
Robbie, I can also just do the list.
Alan?
Let's do the list.
We're going to do after the break. So you're okay with sticking around?
Sure.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the list with CEO, Night Dive Studio CEO Stephen Kick, and best friend of the show, because he's going to get this. He's got the ideas that I've got the ideas. You've got the connections. We're going to make it happen. Let's take a break.
Did you say best friend?
Welcome to your doom.
And we're back with the list with special guest, Night Dive CEO, actual Night Dive CEO. We're such a big fan of Stephen Kick and everything that they're doing up there in Vancouver,
CEO?
Washington. We are going to have him join us for the list. And this is a very special list because these are all games that I would like Night Dive to remake for the show. And we could talk about them on the show. You could remake the games, and then we could talk about them on the show. And it's synergist. It's a synergist. We're synergy. So
I'm just gonna blindly approve all of these titles on the list.
Well, that's okay. All you got to do is take a step back, put your feet up. This is the list. Let's dive right on in. So first up on the list is Fade to Black. Fade to Black, of course, is the 3D shooter sequel to none other than Flashback Quest of Identity. So we think about the Quest of Identity that must have been going through the people that were making Fade to Black for the PC and PlayStation 1 when it came out. But wouldn't it be great if the Night Dive team took a crack at re-releasing this game on the Nintendo Switch and modern platforms? Stephen Kick.
Did you said Fade to Black? Fade to Black.
Next up on the list is Dead Space Extraction. Dead Space Extraction is, of course, the incredible Dead Space tie-in game originally for the Nintendo Wii, the first Wii, but it was, of course, later ported to the PlayStation Store and a number of other platforms. But this is a light gun game set in the Dead Space universe. Sort of a more recent game than maybe what you guys are normally doing, but hey, why not talk about the Dead Space Extraction coming out now on the Nintendo Switch? Are you ready to announce it? Stephen
Not
Kick.
quite ready, but it is co-op. I approve.
It is couch co-op, which is what we're going to be missing so much when we come back from all these quarantine EGI episodes, is that we're going to be needing more couch co-op games. So it's sort of like the Dead Space Extraction is sort of like Overcooked, but in Dead Space. Grudge Warriors
Never
for the
played
place.
it.
Oh, gotta play it, Stephen Kick, because you can't actually have a decision. You can't make a decision about whether or not you're going to publish a Dead Space Extraction remaster unless you play the Dead Space Extraction remaster.
It's about time.
Grudge Warriors for the PlayStation 1. Alan, when I say Grudge Warriors, what's the first topic that comes into your head?
I would go
is it
ahead.
Vehicular combat? Because
yes,
it is. Then you would be right. The plane comes in, it drops the Jeep in the world, and the vehicle combat begins immediately with Grudge Warriors. And this is an incredible game, Stephen Kick, because this was one of the first. This is one of the first publisher that would release $10 PlayStation games brand new. Grudge Warriors for the PlayStation 1. Are you willing to announce right now that you are going to acquire the IP for Grudge Warriors
at a $9.99 price tag?
Yes.
Is that right? Did I just announce that? I guess that's what we're doing.
You just announced. Also, we're looking for that Stephen Kick endorsement. We're looking for that announcement of the Night Dive Studios Elemental Gearbolt. Elemental Gearbolt, of course, is another light gun game that I would love. That would be perfect for that couch co-op, similar to Dead Space Extraction. In fact, if you think about it this way, you could have put the Dead Space Extraction and the Elemental Gearbolt into one disc or cartridge that limited run games could put out on the Nintendo Switch. It could be done by Christmas, and that thing would sell like hotcakes, I'm telling you. Elemental Gearbolt, Dead Space Extraction, light gun games, where did they come from? Who knows? When you're pointing the gun, you shoot, and you get to point off the screen. You point the gun off the screen to reload, Alan.
Right.
Can we just make a console built inside of a light gun, and then everybody buys the light gun?
This is the kind of encouragement that this show absolutely needs. I think Stephen Kick, what you need to do is you actually need to make a retro console similar to what the TurboGrafx 16 PC Engine, because that's a really nice console, and they have a really good menu system, and that's what these things are really missing, is really good menu systems. I think we can all agree.
Or you could make a real gun
like a light gun.
Feels like a toy, and when you shoot it, you feel like it's like life is a game, but it's actually a real gun.
We were in Las Vegas, and they had these games. They had these incredible. They had a light gun game that was just a BB gun that you shoot at the TV screen. The screen
it hurt like hell.
Anyway,
fit a console inside the Super Scope.
You tell me. You're the Night Dive CEO.
I have a couple ideas behind you guys.
I'm a talk show host. This is the list. We got to keep going through the list. Pandora's Tower. Pandora's Tower, of course, is one of those great action adventure games that came out late in the Wii's life cycle. You're getting to see some Wii games on the list tonight that I would love to see remastered on the Nintendo Switch. Are you considering, or have you secretly considered the Pandora's Tower? How do you get to the top of that tower? You fight your way to the top with the whip and the chain. And it looks like Castlevania, looks like those Castlevania games that came out on the PlayStation 2, Stephen Kick.
So it's a 2D game?
It's a 3D game. The Saturn version of Quake is on the list tonight. The Saturn version of Quake is especially interesting because it was made by Lobotomy Studios, the people behind the Saturn version, Power Slave or Exhumed. So nobody else is talking about this. No other show. When people talk about Quake all the time. There's an entire Quake. There's a Quake convention, but nobody's talking about the Sega Saturn version of Quake, Alan.
Yeah, how are you enjoying the list, Stephen Kick?
I love the list. I wish there was a little more time to go into the list.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the list. Is that there's no time. There's no time to talk about the list when you're doing the list because it's the list.
The main programmer of Quake Saturn version, I think he lives on an island and he's totally a hermit.
That's crazy as hell, and I think that is incredible because that is a custom. That is not the Quake engine. That is a custom engine.
That's right.
That uses they basically just took the game Quake and they put it into a completely different engine.
I think it broke him, and I think that's what happened. He took a boat out to an island somewhere in the Puget Sound, and he's never been heard from again.
I mean, that's what an incredible story. You could make a movie about that. You could
make a game out of that.
You could make him into a character in a game. Spawn and Shadowhawk in 1600s colonial America.
And a weird
island. He could be the child.
I think we might do. I mean, it just writes itself.
It writes itself.
Really have to start.
Much like the list. So let's go right back into the list. We got Soul of the Samurai. Soul of the Samurai is, of course, it's a fixed camera, pre-rendered background samurai action game set in feudal Japan. Alan, have you ever been to feudal Japan?
Once.
Well, it's an incredible place to set a game in the samurai universe. These are fighters, Alan. These are gladiators of the greatest order. They are absolutely willing to die for themselves, for the emperor, or themselves, or the warlords they serve. You can't. Well, when they're fighting with the warlords, they're different things. I think they call them like Ronin.
I'm like a Robby Ronin in that I would die at any moment for Robby.
And it was preceded by, but we're actually, Way of the Samurai isn't even on the list. It's actually Soul of the Samurai, which is the PlayStation 1 game that preceded the Way of the Samurai series. There's 3 Way of the Samurai games, but there's only one Sword of the Samurai. Stephen Kick, are you willing to consider remastering Soul of the Samurai for the PlayStation 1? But put it in one